The dragon comes into much closer view now, actually now having moved closer towards the front of the mansion, above the courtyard, where you stand and wait. Whenever you last met her, I did note, why don't you just guys look up a picture of a green dragon? And by and large, that description still holds true. Her green and lime and foresty scales are reflecting all manners of colors, courtesy of the, again, multi-hued lights coming from the front of the mansion. Of course, maybe not in party mode, but any night can be a party night when you're a socialite, right? We have like the Drakkenhall paparazzi waiting outside the walls to capture photos and everything. However, she does look a bit different in that she's wearing a few things at least that she wasn't wearing during the party. Most notably, as she touches down, especially since you all have been alerted to it, there is the grand sight of what she wears on her right claw. And the best way to describe it is a mithril monstrosity. It appears to be just a little bit larger than the hand itself, and almost seems to be like melded or fused onto the claw. In addition, she wears an amber pendant. She has a circlet on top of her head, and on her left claw she wears an emerald ring. Nelron Alithor is also adorned. It appears as if, well, maybe he is out for combat, or at least dressed up as if he is fighting, or maybe this is how he looks whenever he's not attending parties. Chief among what you would notice from him, however, this incredibly suave and well-dressed man who has finely tailored leather armor, is the incredibly lengthy and faintly glowing glaive that he carries in his hands. A very long and wickedly sharp affair that hums with energy and glows a soft purple light. The ground rumbles and shakes a bit as the green dragon falls onto it, rather gracefully, and with a snort very near your group, enough to qualify as nearby for sure. Chuuk's face is inscrutable. She is a dragon. Nelron, however, appears to have a amused smile on his face.
We'll look upon the sight. I mean, it's impressive, a little terrifying. Sort of giving them time to do whatever they do. You know, they might have like a routine when they come back home, or... I mean, we are kind of in the middle of the sort of courtyard and everything.
You are. Yeah. The guards, for their part, appear to be standing still, not nervously looking, but they are attentively regarding the center of the courtyard. And Chuuk quirks her head curiously to stare at the group.
I believe last time we were told not to speak on the spoken to. So, sort of step forward slightly, but let her have the first word. Be the respectful way of doing things.
Chuuk's eyes roam over the party. Dwohurim, roll your high druid dice for me again, and Aurelia, roll your 3 dice for me again.
Sure.
Oh, no.
It's a nothing.
A 6. That's good. Right?
Okay. Well, Aurelia, certainly, as she stares at this dragon and comes to think and grip to the name, while she has not had personal dealings and, her connection with, maybe like dragons of her caliber, as certainly Chuuk is a very powerful one, Chuuk's name is definitely well known as a socialite within the grand city of Drakkenhall. Green dragons tend to go their own way. They are very moody, particularly with the imprisonment of the head green dragon, kind of trapped in the pool, as the green dragon is by the Elf Queen. Thanks, Elf Queen. As such, green dragons tend to wander a bit. They're not as lost as the white dragons are. The white dragons have been completely pathetic since the death of the white, after the Lich King killed him. The green dragons, however, they tend to be mercurial, and they have been known to go outside of perhaps acceptable bounds of society. If there would be a chromatic dragon that would be likely to strike a deal with individuals not associated or affiliated with the three, perhaps even individuals who might even be somewhat leaning towards good, it would be green dragons. Chuuk will again snort and say, "Your group has changed since I invited it to my party last month."
Jerome will contemplate that has been incredibly short time, and so much has happened. Holy crap.
It has been a little over a month since you folks showed up at our party.
Felt like years. Man. He'll bow and say, yes, there has been some losses and some recruitment.
I see. And for that matter, Geráck, you should roll your dice with the Great Gold Worm. Okay. Well, Geráck would know the official attitude towards chromatic dragons as espoused by the Great Gold Worm. It's a chromatic dragon. Why is it still alive?
Yep.
That's about it, at least from his official connection standpoint.
Yeah.
And Chuuk will quirk her head and say, "Change does come for us all in time. What brings you here, dwarf?"
Mind is, since we last spoke, I have been to Newport for quite some time to deal with some problems that arose there, in particular to the High Druid and an individual within that structure with whom I have quite a bit of ire, so to speak. I have tried to get at him, but it seems that my position as a wizard and a practitioner of the ways of the Archmage has put me in a rather problematic diplomatic situation where I have a hard time doing things to get at this man myself. However, it has come to my attention that you have recently acquired something that might help me get some leverage with the other side that I could potentially use to get in a position where where I just might get what I desire in this situation. I'm here to perhaps propose a bargain, whereas this leverage would be put over to us so we could leverage it with the local druids in order to turn them against, let's be honest, him against the others. I could then use him to get at this personal problem I have. In return, I'm sure there's something me and the individuals gathered here with me could do for you that might outweigh whatever resources this trade might otherwise rob you of.
Is Dwohurim being deceitful? Or admitting things?
I would probably argue that he's admitting things. He is not entirely fully convicted, but this is, well, I mean, this is what he wants to get at Ajax, really. That's why we're trying to get the druid's help.
Not a lie, then, so much as a thing of omission. Let me go ahead and roll something.
Sure.
Okay. You are here for the woman.
Yes, that is true. She would be a great bargaining chip. And as far as we understand, many Druid resources have already been expended trying to recover her. This Therral is willing to do much to do such a thing, even sacrifice his own. I'm hoping to draw upon this seal to deal with, well, Ajax, as it happens.
Aurelia, while Chuuk is watching Dwohurim, you notice the eyes of her husband, Nelron, flick over to you, and he actually leans down onto the neck of Chuuk while keeping his eyes on you.
Aurelia will try to stay calm. That's a good thing.
The dragon quirks her head to the other side and says, "You were gone. Newport, you said."
Yes. He operates in that area near the Wild Wood.
"Is that where your new companions joined you, then?"
He looks slightly perturbed, not really understanding what that has to do with it, and says around the area, around Newport, yes.
Chuuk snorts. "I have not been formally introduced, and do not wish for strangers to be within my home." Her eyes flick over towards Geráck. "You? Who are you?"
Geráck will bow and say, "My name is Geráck Zold. I come from the west."
"What do you do here in this group? I understand that there was a druid and a leader, bartender, human."
I set out looking for some of my kin that had gone missing, and I sort of bumbled upon this group here, and we seem to have some common goals.
"So that's what you do."
Yes.
The dragon will bob its head. Nelron is still looking at Aurelia.
I think he's asking you about, like, what sort of abilities.
And Chuuk will then look over towards Aurelia. "Then you. What about you?"
If I may ask a question in return first, your husband does seem to be rather interested in me. In what capacity might that be? It makes me slightly uncomfortable.
Nelron clears his throat and says, "A group of this type makes waves as it travels through the Empire. To be associated with the individuals that my wife and I have met previously is to be writing your names in the annals of history, perhaps. Considering how you appear, it does not seem as you are much fit for history, or one to be noticed by it. You do not have the glamour that is to be expected of history writers."
Some individuals would wish the history to remember their deeds, not their outrageous influence.
"So have you taken a vow of poverty, then?"
Not particularly. I do have to apologize if I'm not dressed for the occasion, however, it was rather spontaneous.
Chuuk swivels her head up to look at her husband. The husband looks down. Chuuk returns her gaze to Aurelia and says, "So same question as I asked Geráck, then. Who are you?"
I'm just thinking out of character here. I want to make that perfectly clear.
Sure.
I need a moment to decide.
Sure. Call me John. I can pull an iPhone.
I'm John, a human.
Shit. From Earth. What?
Well, the female variant would be Jane, but yeah, my name is Jane Doe. What?
Jane Smith.
I mean,
You really want to lie to the dragon? Socialite dragon?
that's
Well, he probably
I
knows
don't
anyway.
think so. I don't think so. And the worst thing that can happen is that we actually get to fight her. So that would be great too, right?
Without weapons.
Yeah.
Well, Aurelia doesn't have a problem with that.
No, but we others do.
She can like take 3 move actions and be out of here.
It is going to be literally impossible for me to lie, so I'm not going to.
So that thing that you removed, like sheep, like a feet or something that allowed you to like fly temporarily.
No. The feet did something different. I can still fly temporarily.
Okay, good.
My name is Away. No, Aurelia will try to nod politely and say, "My name is Aurelia. I'm a guide for this particular group."
A guide. That is an interesting thing to say. I do believe that this group, at least some of its elements, looking to Dwohurim and Leon and Tempus, and then back to Aurelia, have had prior experience with Blue City.
That is true. Speaks up. However, last time we had to leave rather quickly. It seemed like a good idea to this time come with someone who would know their way around things a little better.
Chuuk remains looking at Aurelia.
Perhaps the word guide might not be the most useful, however, of words. It is perhaps an embellishment for what I actually do.
And Chuuk, well, Aurelia has enough experience with Dragonkin and Draconics and sort of like even like Dragon to extent. Aurelia thinks that Chuuk gets a small grin on her face before looking back to Dwohurim. I have heard your suggestion. A moment to confer with my husband.
Just bow and nods.
And rather than like walk away for like having a little secrecy, she actually like takes off into the air away so that you cannot hear.
Well, smile politely to some of the adepts and spellbreakers.
They don't look nervous. They don't look overly tense either. They look like they're guards and fucking just a normal day dealing with socialite princess there.
You'll check him out anyway.
These folks definitely do look like they're the wizardly type with casting spells, and these folks certainly do look like the type who would haunt you to the end of your days.
Yeah, he gets that.
They have long swords, and they have like little bags that dangle from like belts. And they seem to be out of like they're looking at you with like grim resolve, as if they're hoping you'll try something.
This disarming smile. We want to loot your corpse.
On the bright side, Leon would know that he would be able to handle some of their stuff, like because he has Spellfist, and he is able to cast ranged spells as if they're close quarter spells, or rather without provoking attacks opportunity. At least one of the abilities they have, which is that one that he knows because of his order of the forbidden thing, and his relationship die, he would know that Slayer of Wizards does not apply to him.
That is good to know.
Leon is safe from that because of his Spellfist talent, which makes it so that his ranged spells do not provoke, and because Slayer of Wizards treats your close spells as ranged spells, they still don't provoke.
Dwohurim would have to.
Because Leon spent a lot of time training with people who basically were spellbreakers, so
Yes.
makes sense.
Yes. So there. That's one revelation of what they can do.
Surely this will never come up.
It's a short amount of time, maybe 83 seconds or so. It's not that long, minute and a half, before Chuuk will descend and land on the ground once more. And she'll say, I have a counteroffer.
All right.
You have... And she'll actually, look a bit, past you. Towards, the hedge. Just somewhere, off into space somewhere. You have been in Newport. And... I think I might be able to offer you something more useful than the Druid woman. It is my understanding that associates among the Archmage have had a great deal of trouble with a very mysterious and shadowy figure known as the Gloom, Exilia. However, hunting the Gloom is nearly impossible, for one does not know what the Gloom is, at least no one among the Archmage's organization. And then the dragon swivels her head to stare straight at Aurelia. I, however, do know what Exilia is. And if you, for whatever reason, would be interested in hunting the Gloom, I could tell you who it is you're actually hunting. You would prepare ice spells to slay a red dragon. You would prepare holy spells to slay a vampire. I can tell you what you need fear when you face Exilia. Again, solid stare right at Aurelia. Nelron, for his opinion, is not staring, he's just looking around. Looking at his wife.
Aurelia gapes just a tiny bit. Staring, well, not staring back, but rather being completely taken off guard by that revelation. Maybe even looking pleadingly to Dwohurim here, and the others even.
That's I can say. Well, that is certainly something we would be interested in. However, it does not help me with the problem that I came here to solve. Sadly,
It
the
does
individual I have been wanting to get at, it's called Ajax. He's an emissary of the High Druid.
She looks at Dwohurim, and Chuuk finally looks away, and offers the sort of equivalent of a shrug. And says, that is what you personally came for, perhaps. I wonder whether it is why your entire group has decided to brave an audience with me. I am willing to offer the woman. I am also willing to offer this information. I doubt you will want to perform the tasks I would ask to acquire both. Acquiring one is easy enough, provided you could pry something from the clutches of Therral. And there is a special few droplets of poisonous venom that escape from her jaws whenever she says that name. Therral holds an item the High Druids like, and I much would like to have, called the Cauldron of Dead Men. She offers the equivalent of a smirk. An interesting name, I know, considering you would think it related to necromancy. And to some extent it is. Yet the druids create it, and they own it. And I am sure Therral has a Cauldron of Dead Men. Should you manage to acquire it from him, perhaps by pressing the need to have his beloved back, then I will deliver her to you, so you may give it to him, as she currently is, which is alive. More than I can say for some. Or, if you acquire the cauldron, you don't have to take the woman, and instead hear all about Exilia, and what you might need in the coming months. I don't think you're up for luring Therral the Everliving out of his sanctuary, though, so I won't offer that as an option.
Yes, that would certainly solve one problem, but not both. All right, then, I suppose we will now need a bit of time to confer. Or rather, I suppose we can choose our prize when we return.
Chuuk nods. Yes, you may do so. The Cauldron of Dead Men is your key to acquiring something your group desires. I wish you well.
Likewise, he'll give her a bow, and then sort of step back slightly, situating that he's done with the conversation, basically.
Chuuk will momentarily flick her eyes up to her husband, who flicks his eyes to Aurelia and offers a small wave.
Aurelia still being somewhat, what's the word? Not starstruck, but essentially
like dumbfounded.
flummoxed. That's a good word. Yes, dumbfounded. Will return the wave, be confused at her own reaction, and also turn to leave.
Okay. Is there anything else that Tempus, Leon, or Geráck would like to say to Chuuk and Nelram?
Die!
Well,
By
I
the
would
power
like
of
to
the
say
great
and will
Goger.
say it.
Challenge you to a duel!
I would like to say and will say is two different things.
Yeah.
Well, Tempus conveniently found a fork and no.
Happy birthday to
You
the
wouldn't get
Graf.
help with that, I don't think.
Just punch. You'll be fine.
Grapple the dragon. It's worked for some.
Bind it in one turn.
That's right, yeah.
It was 2 turns, right?
Take a bunch of feats to do it. You'll manage.
Let's leave this manor house and go out
Yes.
where we can get our stuff and
You will be escorted by the guards back to the gatehouse, where you can easily get your weaponry back. You haven't been here for maybe like 12, 13 minutes. It hasn't been too terribly long. And the guards, they don't really show you any sort of hostility, although a few of the spellbreakers do look at Dwohurim like they really wish you'd try something.
so they get to show off. Dicks. Well, yeah.
I mean, I imagine they would probably do the same to me until they realised I could fight back.
Well, it's one of those things. Just do like a little cantrip just to see what they can do, and they'll just be like, you do a cantrip, suddenly your arm explodes.
See, they give Leon a similar look, but they're slayers of wizards, not slayers of all spellcasters.
That's true.
It's the book. and the cloak and the hood. And
Yeah,
like, the gnarled
In the
wooden
fucking,
staff.
like, the bird.
It's very much wizard.
Alright. It is...
the leather armor might confuse them.
late night, like, maybe 10:20, 10:30. You folks are outside Chuuk's estate. What would you like to do?